Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it's accomplished. Do you think that I have come to establish peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, the household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son, and the son against his father. A mother against her daughter, and a daughter against her mother. A mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Have you ever attended one of those meetings where you don't know anybody, and they do these like icebreakers, and they do these little things so you can know? I was at this meeting several years ago. They did this icebreaker, and the question was this: what is your idea of a perfect vacation? All right, and some people said, one person said, I want to go to Paris. Another one said Rome. Another one said skiing in the Rocky Mountains. There's this one lady though said, this is my idea of a perfect vacation. I don't care where I'm at, as long as I'm on a beach. And my husband is there, and my 5 kids are there, and their spouses are there, and all their grandkids are there, and everybody's getting along. And we all laughed, just like some of you just did now, hanging out. And she said, I'm serious. And I think we were laughing because we all would love that. That would be ideal. Everyone getting along. Wouldn't that be great? What family doesn't have its problems? What family doesn't have its issues? In the gospel today, Jesus is saying that he's going to be the cause of division. Right? It's going to be father against son, mother against daughter, in-laws and outlaws and all that stuff against each other. Okay? And he's going to be the cause of it. So to really understand what's going on here, and what a shocking statement that is, put yourself back in the 1st century Israel. Okay? You'll really appreciate that. Because if you're back then, you're in that, and you're in that spot where Jesus is telling this and preaching this, family meant a lot more than it does today. Family was everything. I mean, if you were disowned by your family back then, you were cut off. Right? And you had to find your own food, you had to find your own money, you had to find your own place to live and how to survive and everything. And the hard part was the scorn of people. People knew that you were cut off, that you were separated. Right? It could lead to starvation. It could even lead to death. So imagine you're there when Jesus is saying this, and you're looking in the eyes and the faces of everybody who's talking to you. He says, I'm going to cause division. Father against son, mother against son. You can just see their eyes. You can see their mouths gasping. What a shock that is. And still, it's kind of a shock today too, isn't it? Right? We have family members that we're kind of separated from, divided from, for one reason or another. Sometimes it's over money or inheritance and stuff. And a lot of times it's over faith. I know you have sons and daughters who have stopped coming to church. Right? And you hurt. You wake about that. And you just doesn't feel right. And you just wonder, this division. And then it comes to the point where, when they come home or something, or you're together, you can't talk about religion, you can't talk about politics, right? Right? And all those things are off. Why? You want to keep the peace. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep the peace? Or are you going to live to the truth and try to live that truth out? Right? It's hard. It tugs at you, and you ache, and you hurt, and you just wish they would come back. Because for them, they think the universe is irrelevant. For them, they think that gathering together as a community of faith is unimportant, and it hurts. It really hurts. That's the vision Jesus was talking about in the gospel today. And so, it's also the hurt and the ache that Jeremiah was feeling in that first reading. He was just trying to do what God asked him to do. His job was to tell the Israelites, shape up, or the Babylonians are going to come in and you're going to lose everything. Well, I didn't like to hear Jeremiah's message. And today you heard one of 4 assassinations the sister. Let them say goodbye. You know, and Jeremiah was only just trying to do what God was asking him to do. He was trying to tell them the truth. Remember that movie, A Few Good Men, with Tom Cruise? What's that like? You can't handle the truth. Well, they couldn't. The Israelites could not handle the truth, and they just tried to get rid of it. Right? But he gets a last-minute reprieve at the end. And so Jeremiah was just, as proclaiming the truth, was going to cause that division that Jesus was talking about in the gospel today. So what do you do? What do you do when you have a son or a daughter, or a niece or a nephew, you have grandkids or siblings that just say, I don't believe it anymore, I'm not going, I don't think it's important? What do you do? Your hope comes in the second reading. Letter of the Hebrews. That author talked about this great cloud of witnesses. Well, what's that? What's a great cloud of witnesses? Basically, two different groups, right? Living and deceased, right? The living cloud of witnesses are people, like think in your own lives, who has set you on the right path? Who in your life has said, to try to live a good life, a moral life, an honest life? Who has set an example for you in your own life to say that, yeah, church is important, and receiving Jesus in the Eucharist is a priority? Who are those people in your life that have taught you that? That's the great cloud of witnesses, right? That's the living cloud of witnesses. And then the other one is the deceased. In Catholic terminology, we call that the communion of saints. People who led good lives, holy lives, people who have tried to live as best they can, even though they're imperfect, just like us, and they made it to heaven. Right? This great cloud of witnesses, living and deceased, are saying, hey, we did this. It's not easy, but we did it, and you can do this too. This great cloud of witnesses is urging us on and trying to say, yes, keep at it, don't give up. Set a good example. Teach by example. Teach with love. Set an example of faith and compassion. All right? And when we do those things, all right? They're the ones that are, this cloud of witnesses are the ones that are spurring us on. They're the ones that are urging us on and saying, you can do this, you can do this. It's tough, but you can still do it. And so, when you get a little down, you feel bad, because of your kids maybe not going to church or grandkids and stuff, and you're thinking, oh, I sent them to Catholic school, oh, I haven't baptized, oh, I haven't gone to first communion, they made the first communion, they made the confirmation, they won't go. Well, before you beat yourself up, think about this. They live in a culture, we all live in this culture that says this is all unimportant. And they're constantly getting fed that message all the time. All right? So before you beat yourself up, remember that. And remember the cloud of witnesses. And that you can do this, and you can still try to set a great example. Let me give you a story of someone who did that. His name was Franz Jägerstadt. He was Austrian. He was a peasant farmer, and he was a very young man. He had a wife and 3 little kids, babies basically, and living in Austria. He lived during the time of Hitler. And in 1938, Hitler tried to, and succeeded in annexing Austria into part of the Nazi German Empire. Well, Franz didn't like that. He didn't think it was a good thing. He was also the sacristan at his church. He came to church every day, got things ready for the priest for Mass all the time. Good, simple, holy guy. Uneducated, couldn't read, but just trying to do his best in following God. And so when the Nazis had this plebiscite, this kind of like referendum to say, to be a part of Germany, it was of course rigged, just like Crimea was with Russia and all that. And so 99% of the people still had voted according to the Nazis, yes. Well, Hans didn't. Hans Jägerstadt said, no, I don't believe in Hitler. I don't believe in what they're doing. I don't think what they're doing is right. And I'm not going to do it. And so he was never violently protesting or anything like that, but he never accepted any Nazi handouts. He never took part or participated in any Nazi collections to help the war effort. And so people started to get out on him and say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And he would just finally say, I don't think it's right. And try to go about his life as a farmer and Saxon and his area. Well, it got to the point, as you know, in World War II, where Hitler needed more soldiers. And so they started a draft. And so in Austria, they started this draft, and everyone had to register. Franz Jägerstatter said, no, I'm not going to. And that's when the Nazis started catching up. And he tried to evade and hide for a little bit, but eventually they caught him, and they sent him to a prison in Brandenburg, okay, Germany. He was there for a few months, and then he was beheaded. No witnesses to this except for one. There was a priest, the chaplain at the prison. He accompanied Franz on the walk from his cell to the guillotine. And the chaplain for that prison said, I've never seen a man like him. Never. Because when he was walking to his death, he had joy in his eyes. He had this sense of confidence in himself that he was doing the right thing. And then the chaplain said, he's the only person I've ever met in my entire life that's a living saint. Or that kind of witnesses. You know, and even his pastor, Franz's pastor told him, you know, get drafted, go. You know, because, you know, think of your wife, think of your kids, think of the bigger picture. Even his bishop said, go. You have a sincere heart, I know, but, you know, just go. You know, all this complicity with the Nazis, and Franz still refused. And if you go to Franz's little town in Austria today, in the center of town, at the town square, you see this big monument with 56 names, 56 Catholics from that little village that fought for the Nazis and died in World War II. There's not one mention of Franz Jägerstatter. Not one word about it. And yet he's a cloud, part of that cloud of witnesses. So, do you try to tell the truth, or do you keep the peace? Do you tell it like it is, or do you try to smooth things over when it comes to your own family? Do you pray? Do you pray unceasingly for them? Do you ask for that cloud of witnesses for their help and guidance? May our families be of one mind and one heart.